Hello, hello, hello. Hi. I forgot last week. Feedback. I wonder why. Because I'm an idiot. That's why. Hi. Okay, yeah, right, fine, good. I blame the heat. It's been a little bit warm here. Um 32 degrees during the day in February. Not my idea of fun, personally. So if you can hear a buzzing in the background, I've just brought myself a really big fan and it's sat right next to me and it's keeping me cool. So if I put my hair here, it'll kind of move every now and then. And it's a blessed relief. Anyway, as this is Monday, we are back to Monday Night Moods. It's not Tuesday Night Terrors or Wednesday Night Woes or any other those ones. We're actually on a Monday for once. I can keep time. I can do things properly. Life isn't a pain in the ass and all that malarkey. And I just actually completely forgot last week. So anyway, welcome to me doing things. Monday Night Moods, where I, as a side project to the podcast, stream and upload this to YouTube, and I read spooky historical tales of weirdness and religion and all sorts of funness. And we are starting off in season 1 with Paradise Lost by John Milton, a poem in 10 books. Yeah, this is a poem, which means it's a little bit awkward to read at times. As you've read the rest, listen to the rest of them, you'll know why it's a little bit odd. Or why I can't read. I have dyslexia. That's always fun. But yes, so we're on book 7. Book 7 is really long. So there's a couple of versions of Paradise Lost. Some are 10 books and some are 12 books. And this is where they start to split, because some split book 7 up and some book 8, 9, and 10, and they make them slightly shorter. So it's not as annoying to read. But this version, which is linked in the notes and everywhere, and you can find it on Gutenberg Press because we love Gutenberg. This is the long version of Chapter 7. It is about 30 pages long. I'm not reading all of that at once. If anybody listened to the last episode of my podcast, where I did Peridor, the son of Efwag, from the Mabinogion, that's a book at 20 odd pages long. Not a poem, so it's actually full script across 20 pages. That took me just over 2.5 hours, no, just over 2 hours 15 or something to read. When I edited it down, it was about 1 hour and 45. Shows you how much ums and ahs I do, as you can see when I do this. But I also re-record a lot of those as I read them, so I actually make them proper. But anyway, so yeah, I'm not going to read all of this at once because I don't want this to be an 1.5 hour stream or whatever. So I'm going to probably read about 15 pages of it, pick a nice point for it to stop, and then come back next week and finish off book 7. So, sit back, grab yourself a drink. I've got a massive bottle of mango juice. Mango. Hello? I apologise about this. My computer's being strange. So I was having issues before with my microphone. I think one of my USB ports doesn't work, and I've got 3 USB ports: one for my camera, one for my mic, and one for my mouse. So if one of them doesn't work, things don't work. Anyway, so let's get on with this. Enough faffing about. Let's read. Book 7. Grab yourself a drink and enjoy the tales. No more talk of where God or angel guessed with man, as with his friend familiar us to sit indulgent, and with him partake rural repast, permitting him the while venial discourse unblamed. I must now change these notes to tragic, foul distrust and breach disloyal on the part of man, revolt and disobedience on the part of heaven now alienated, distance and distaste, anger and just rebuke and judgment given, that brought into this world a world of woe, sin and her shadow death, and misery death's harbinger. Sad, yet argument not less but more heroic than the wrath of stern Achilles on his foe pursued, thrice fugitive about Troy wall, or rage or Turnus of Lavinia, disespoused, there we go, of Turnus for Lavinia disespoused, or Neptune's ear or Juno's, that so long perplexed the Greek and Cytherea's son, if answerable style I can obtain of my celestial patroness, who deigns her nightly visitation, unimplored, and dictates to me slumbering, or inspires easy my unpremeditated verse, since first this subject for heroic song pleased me long choosing, and beginning late, not seduce. Hi. This is the fun bit of this version, is you get to see all these messes up, and I ain't editing them out, so I just gonna look like a bit of a tit. So it's not all swings and roundabouts in this world here. Now where was I? Saying a word I couldn't say. Not sedulous. Yeah, not sedulous. We'll go with that. Not sedulous by nature to indict wars, hitherto the only argument heroic deemed, chief mastery to dissect, with long and tedious havoc fabled knights, in battles feigned the better fortitude of patience and heroic martyrdom, unsung, or to describe races and games, or tilting fortune in blazoned shields, impresses quaint comparisons and steeds, bases and tinsels, trappings, glorious knights at joust and tournament, then martialed feast, served up in hall and with sewers and seneschals. The skill of artifice or of office mean, not that which justly gives heroic name to person or to poem. Me of these, not skilled nor studious, higher argument remains sufficient of itself to raise that name, unless an age too late, or cold climate or years damp my intended wing, depressed and much they may, or if all be mine, not hers who brings it nightly to my ear. The sun was sunk, and after him the star of Hesperus, whose office is to bring twilight upon the earth, short arbiter twixt day and night, and now from end to end night's hemisphere has veiled the horizon round, when Satan, who late fled before the threats of Gabriel out of Eden, now improved in mediated fraud and malice, bent on man's destruction, more what might hap of heavier on himself, fearless returned. By night he fled, and at midnight returned from compassing the earth, cautious of day. Since Uriel, regent of the sun, described his entrance, and forewarned the cherubim that kept their watch, thence full of anguish driven, the space of 7 continued nights he rode with darkness. Thrice the equinoctial line he circled, 4 times crushed the car of night, from pole to pole, traversing each colour of the 8th return. On the 8th returned, and on the coast averse, from entrance or cherubic watch, by stealth found unsuspected way. There was a place, now not through sin, not time, first wrought the change, where Tigris at the foot of paradise into a gulf shot underground, till part rose up a fountain by the tree of life, in with river sunk, and with it rose Satan involved in rising mist, then sought where to lie hid. See, he had searched and land from Eden over Pontus and the pool Maeotis, up beyond the river Ob, downward as far Antarctic, and in length west from Orance to the ocean barred at Darien. thence to the land where flows Ganges and Indus. Thus the orb he roamed, with narrow search and with inspection deep, considered every creature, which of all most opportune might serve his wiles, and found the serpent saltiest beast of all the field. Him, after long debate, irresolute of thoughts resolved, his final sentence, chose fit vessel, fittest imp of fraud, in whom to enter his dark suggestions, hide from sharpest sight. For in the wily snake, whatever slights none would suspicious mark, as from his wit and native subtlety proceeding, which in other beasts observed, doubt might beget of diabolical power active within beyond the sense brute. Thus he resolved. But first, from inward grief, his bursting passion into plaints thus poured of earth, how like to heaven, if not preferred more justly, seat worthier of gods is built without second thoughts, reforming what was old. For what god even better worse would build terrestrial heaven, danced round by other heavens that shine, yet bear their bright officious lamps, light above light for thee alone as seems, in thee concentrating all their precious beams of sacred influence. As God in heaven is centre, yet extends to all, so thou centering receivest from all those orbs in thee, not in themselves or their known virtue, appears productive in herb, plant, and nobler birth, of creatures animate and gradual life, of growth, sense, reason, all summed up in man. With what delight could I have walked thee round, if I could joy in out sweet interchange of hill and valley, rivers, woods and plains, now land, now sea, and shores with forest crowned, rocks, dens and caves, but I in none of these find place or refuge, and the more I see pleasures about me, so much more I feel torment within me, as from the hateful siege of contraries. All good to me becomes bane, and in heaven much worse would be my state. But neither here seek I, nor in heaven to dwell, unless by maistering heaven supreme, nor hope to be myself less miserable but what I seek, but others to make such as I, though thereby worse to me rebound. For only destroying I find ease to my relentless thoughts, and him destroyed, or one to what may work his utter loss. From all this was made, from whom all this was made, and all this will soon follow. As to him linked in wail or woe, woe into then that destruction wide may range. To me shall be the glory sold among the infernal powers, in one day to have marred what he Almighty styled 6 nights and days continued making, and who knows how long before had been contriving, though perhaps no longer then, since I, in one night freed from servitude, inglorious well nigh half thy angelic name, and thinner left the throng of his adorers, he to be avenged and to repair his numbers thus impaired, whether such virtue spent of old now failed more angels to create, if they at least are his created, or to spite us more, determined to advance into our room a creature formed of earth, and him endow exalted from so base original. When heavenly spoils our spoils, what he decreed he effected, man he made, and from him built magnificent this world, and earth his seat, his lord pronounced, and, O indignity, subjected to his service angels' wings, and flaming ministers to watch and tend their earthly charge. Of these the vigilance I dread, and to elude, thus wrapped in mist of midnight, vapour glide obscure and pry in every bush and brake where hap may find the serpent sleeping, in whose mazy folds to hide me, and the dark intent I bring. O foul descent, that I, who erst contend with gods to sit the highest, and now constrained into a beast, and mixed the bestial slime, this essence to incarnate and imbrute, that to the height of deity aspired. But what will ambition and revenge descend to? Who aspires must down as low, as high he soared obnoxious first at last, to basest things revenge. Revenge, at first, though sweet, bitter ere long back on itself recoils. Let it, I reck not, so it light well aimed, since higher I fall short on him who next provoked my envy, this new favourite of heaven, this man of clay, son of despite, whom us the more to spite his maker raised from dust. Spite then with spite is best repaid. So saying, through each thicket dank or dry, like a black mist low creeping, he held on his midnight search, where soonest he might find the serpent, him fast sleeping. Soon he found in labyrinth of many a round self-rowled, his head the mist well stored with subtle wiles, not yet in horrid shade or dismal den, not nonsense yet, but not on the grassy herb, fearless, unfeared he slept. In at his mouth the devil entered, and his brutal sense, in heart or head, possessing, soon inspired with act intelligential. But his sleep disturbed not, waiting close the approach of morn. Now, when as sacred light began to dawn in Eden on the humid flowers, that breathed their morning incense, when all things that breath from the earth's great altar send up silent praise to the Creator, and his nostrils filled with grateful smell, forth came the human pair and joined their vocal worship to the choir of creatures, wanting voice that done partake the season prime for sweetest scents and airs, then commune how that day they best might play their growing work, for much their work outgrew the hand's dispatch of two gardening so wide. And Eve first to her husband thus began: Adam, well may we labour still to dress this garden, still to tend, plant herb and flower, our pleasant task enjoyed, but till more hands aid us, the work under our labour grows, luxurious by restraint. What we by day lop overgrown, or prune, or prop, or bind, one night or two with wanton growth derides, tending to wild. Though, therefore, now advise or hear what to my mind first thoughts present. Let us divide our labours, though where choice leads thee, or where most needs, whether to wind the woodbine round this arbor, or direct the clasping ivy where to climb, while I, in yonder spring of roses intermixed with myrtle, find what to redress till noon. For while so near each other thus all day our tasks we choose, what wonder if no near looks intervene and smiles on subjects new, casual discourse draw on, which intermits our day's work, brought to little, though begun early, and the hour of supper comes unearned, to whom mild answer Adam thus returned: Soul Eve, associate soul, to me beyond compare, above all living creatures dear, well hast thou motioned, well thy thoughts employed, how we might best fulfill the work which here God hath assigned to us, nor of me shalt pass unpraised. For nothing lovelier can be found in woman than to study household good, and good workers in her husband to promote. Yet not so strictly hath our Lord imposed labour as to debar us when we need refreshment. Good timing. Hello. Sorry, I knocked my microphone again. I should probably fix my USB port. Refreshment. There. Labour, impose labour as to debar us when we need refreshment, whether food or talk between, food of the mind or this sweetest intercourse of looks and smiles, for smiles from reason's flow. To brute denied and are of love the food, love not the lowest end of human life, for not to irksome toil, but to delight he made us, and delight to reason joined. These paths and bowers, doubt not but adjoint, will keep from wilderness with ease, as wide as we need walk, till younger hands ere long assist us. But if much converse perhaps thee satiate, to short absence I could yield, for solitude sometimes is best society, and short retirement urges sweet return. But other doubt possesses me, least harm befall thee served from me, for thou know'st what hath been warned us, what malicious foe envying our happiness, and of his own despairing seeks to work us woe and shame by sly assault, and somewhere nigh at hand watches, no doubt, with greedy hope to find his wish and best advantage. Us asunder, hopeless to circumvent, us joined, where each to other speedier aid might lend at need, whether his first design be to withdraw or our fealty from God, or to disturb conjugal love. Then, no, don't update, go away. Then, which perhaps no bliss enjoyed by us excites his envy more, or this, or worse, leave not the faithful side that gave thee being, still shades thee and protects the wife, where danger or dishonour lurks, safest and seemliest by her husband stays, who guards her, or with her the worst endures, to whom the virgin majesty of Eve, and one who loves and some unkindness meets, with sweetest austere composure thus replied, offspring of heaven and earth and all earth's lords, that such an enemy we have who seeks our ruin, both by thee informed I learn, and from the parting angel overheard, as in a shady nook I stood behind, just then returned at shut of evening flowers. But that thou shouldest my firmness therefore doubt to God or thee, because we have a foe may tempt it. I expect not to hear his violence thou fearest not, being such as we, not capable of death or pain, can either not receive or can repel. His fraud is then thy fear, which plain infers thy equal fear that my firm faith and love can by his fraud be shaken or seduced. Thoughts which how found they harbour in thy breast, thoughts which how found they harbour in thy breast, Adam, misthought of her to thee so dear, to whom the healing words Adam replied, daughter of God and man, immortal Eve, for such thou art, from sin and blame entire, not diffident of thee do I dissuade thy absence from my sight, but to avoid the attempt itself, intended by our foe. For he who tempts, though in vain, at least asperses the tempted with dishonour foul, supposed not incorruptible of faith, not proof against temptation, though thyself with scorn though thyself with scorn and anger wouldst resent the offered wrong, thou, though ineffectual fond, misdeem not then in such affront I labour to avert from thee alone, which on us both at once the enemy, though bold, will hardly dare, or daring first on me the assault shall light, nor though his malice and false guile contempt. Subtle he needs must be, who could seduce angels, nor thinks superfluous others' aid. I from the influence of thy looks receive access to every virtue in thy sight, more wise, more watchful, stronger, if need were of outward strength, while shame, though looking on, shame to be overcome or overreached, would utmost vigour arise and raised unite. Why shouldst not thou their like sense within thee feel when I am present, and thy trial choose with me best witness of thy virtue tried? So spake Adam in his care and matrimonial love, but Eve, who thought less attributed to her faith sincere, thus her reply with accent sweet renewed. If this be our condition, thus to dwell in narrow circuits straitened by our foe, subtle or violent, we not endured single with like defence, wherever met, how are we happy, still in fear of harm, but harm precedes not sin, only our foe tempting affronts us with his foul esteem of our integrity. His foul esteem sticks no dishonour on our front, but turns foul on himself, then wherefore shunned or feared by us. Whoever double honour gain from his surmise proved false, find peace within, favour from heaven, our witnessed from the event. And what is faith, love, virtue unassayed alone, without exterior help sustained? Let us not then suspect our happy state left so imperfect by the Maker wise, as not secure to a single or combined frail in our happiness. If this be so, and Eden were no Eden, thus exposed, to whom thus Adam fervently replied, O woman, best are all things as the will of God ordained them. His creating hand nothing imperfect or deficient left of all that he created, much less man, or aught that might his happy state secure from outward force. Within himself the danger lies, yet lies within his power. Against his will he can receive no harm, but God left free the will for what obeys reason, if is free, and reason he made right, but bid her well beware and still erect, lest by some fair appearing good surprise she detect false, and misinform the will, to do what God expressly hath forbid. Not then mistrust, but tender love enjoins, that I should mind thee oft, and mind thou me. Firm we subsist, yet possible to swerve, since reason not impossibly may meet some specious object by the foe spawned, and fall into deception unaware, not keeping strictest watch, as she was warned. Seek not temptation then, which to avoid were better, and most likely, if from me thou sever not. Trial will come unsought. Wouldst thou approve thy constancy? Approve first thy obedience, the other who can know? Not seeing thee attempted, who attest? But if thou think trial unsought may find us both secure, then thus warned thou seemst, go. For thy stay, not free, absents thee more. Go in thy native innocence, rely on what thou hast of virtue, summon all, for God towards thee hath done his part, do thine. So spake the patriarch of mankind. But Eve persisted, yet submiss, though last replied, with thy permission then, and thus forewarned chiefly by what thy own last reasoning words touched only, that our trial, when least thought, may find us both perhaps far less prepared. The willinger I go, nor more expect a foe so proud will first the weaker seek, so bent the more shall shame him his repulse. Thus saying, from her husband's hand her hand soft she withdrew, and like a wood nymph light, Oread or Dryad, or of Delia's train, betook her to the groves. But Delia's self in gates surpassed, and goddess-like deport, though not as she with bow and quiver armed, but with such gardening tools as are yet rude, guiltless of fire, had formed of angels brought to Pales or Pomona, thus adorned like as she seemed, Pomona, when she fled Vertumnus, or to Ceres in her prime, yet virgin of Proserpina from Jove. I think we'll stop there this time. What time is it? I've got 3 different times going on here. No, we've got a little bit longer. I'll read a little bit more. I can do time. I know what time is. Her long with ardent look in eye Her long with ardent look his eyes pursued, delighted, but desiring more her stay. Oft he to her his charge of quick return repeated she to him as oft engaged to be returned by noon amid the bower, and all things in best order to invite noontide repast, or afternoon's repose. O much deceived, much failing, hapless Eve, of thy presumed return, event perverse! Thou never from that hour in paradise foundest either sweet repast or found repose. Such ambush hid among sweet flowers and shades waited with hellish rancour imminent to incept thy way, or send thee back despoiled of innocence, of faith, of bliss. For now, and since first break of dawn, the fiend, mere serpent in appearance, forth was come, and to his quest were likeliest he might find the only two of mankind, but in them the whole included race he purposed prey. In barren field he sought, where any tuft of grove or garden plot may more pleasant lay, their their tendance of plantation for delight, by fountain or by shady rivulet. He sought them both, but wished his hap might find Eve separate. He wished, but not with hope of what so seldom chanced, when to his wish beyond his hope, Eve separate his spies, veiled in a cloud of fragrance where he stood. Half spied, so thick the roses bushing round about her glowed, of stooping to support each flower of slender stalk, whose head, though gay, carnation, purple, azure, or specked of gold, hung drooping unsustained. Them she upstays gently with her myrtle band, mindless the while herself, though fairest unsupported flower, from her best prop so far, and storm so high, nearer drew, and many a walk traversed of stateliest covert, cedar, pine, or palm. Then voluble and bold, now hid, now seen among thick woven arborets and flowers, embroidered on each bank the hand of Eve. Spot more delicious than those gardens feigned, or of revived Adonis and renowned Alcinous, host of the old Laertes' son, or that not mystic where the sapient king held dalliance with his fairy Egyptian spouse. Much he the place admired, the person more, as one who long in populous city pent, where houses thick and sewers annoy the air, forth issuing on a summer's morn, to breath among the pleasant villages and farms adjoined. From each thing met conceives delight, the smell of grain, or tedded grass, or kine, or dairy, each rural sight, each rural sound enchants with nymph-like step their virgin pass. What pleasant seemed for her now pleases more. She most and in her look summons all delight. Such pleasures took the serpent to behold this flowery plat, the sweet recesses of Eve, thus early, thus alone, her heavenly form angelic, but more soft and feminine, her graceful innocence, her every air of gesture, or least action overawed his malice, and with rapine sweet bereaved his fierceness, and the fierce intent it brought. That space the evil one abstracted stood from his own evil, and for the time remained stupidly good, of eminent disarmed, of guile, of hate, of envy, of revenge, but the hot hell that always in him burns, though in mid-heaven soon ended his delight, and tortures him now more. The more he sees of pleasure not for him ordained, then soon fierce hate he recollects, and all his thoughts of mischief gratulating thus excites. Thoughts, whither have he led me? With what sweet compulsion thus transported to forget? What hither brought us hate, not love, nor hope, of paradise for hell? hope here to taste of pleasure, but all pleasure to destroy, save what is in destroying other joy to me is lost. Then let me not let past occasion which now smiles, behold alone the woman, opportune to all attempts, her husband, for I view far round, not high, whose higher intellectual more I shun, and strength of courage haughty, and of limb heroic built, though of terrestrial mould, foe not informidable, exempt from wound. I not so much hath hell debased, and pain enfeebled me, to what I was in heaven, she fair, divinely fair, fit love for gods, not terrible, though terror be in love and beauty, not approached by stronger hate, hate stronger under shew of love well feigned, the way which to her ruin now I tend. So spake the enemy of mankind, enclosed in serpent, inmate bed, inmate enclosed in serpent, inmate bad, and toward Eve addressed his way, not with intended wave, prone on the ground as since, but on his rear circular base of rising folds, that toward fold above fold a surging maze, his head crested aloft, and carbuncle his eyes, which burnished neck of verdant gold erect amidst his circling spires, that on the grass flouted redundant. Pleasing was his shape, and lovely, never since of serpent kind lovelier. Not those that in Ilia changed Hermione in Cadmus, or of God in Epidaurus, nor to whom transformed Ammonian Jove or Capitoline was seen he with Olympius. This with her, who bore Scorpio in height of Rome, with tract oblique at first as one who saw access, but feared to interrupt sidelong. He works his way, as when a ship by skilful steersman wrought, nigh river's mouth or foreland, where the wind veers oft so steers, and shifts her sail, so varied he, and his tortuous train curled many a wanton wreath in sight of Eve. To lure her eye, she busied heard the sound of rustling leaves, but minded not, as used to such disport, before her through the field from every beast more duteous of her call, then at Circean call the herd disguised. He bolder now uncalled before her stood, but as in gaze admiring oft he bowed, oft he bowed. His turret crest and sleek enamelled neck fawning and licked the ground whereupon she trod. His gentle dumb expression tuned at length the eye of Eve to mark his play. He glad of her attention gained with serpent tongue organic, or impulse of vocal air, his fraudulent temptation began. Wonder not, sovereign mistress, if perhaps thou canst, who art sole wonder, much less arm thy looks, the heaven of mildness with disdain displeased, that I approached thee thus, and gazed insatiate, I thus single, not have feared thy awful brow, more awful, thus retired. Fairest resemblance of thy Maker fair, thee all living things gaze on, all things thine by gift, and thy celestial beauty adore, with ravishment beheld, their best beheld where universally admired. But here, in this enclosure wild, these beasts among beholders rude, and shallow to discern half what in thee is fair, one man except, who sees thee? And what is one? Who shouldst be seen, a goddess among gods, adorned and served by angels numberless, thy daily train, so glows the tempter, and his proem tuned into the heart of Eve, his words made way. Though, at the voice much marvelling at length, not unamazed, thought she thus in answer spake. What may this mean, language of man pronounced by tongue of brute, and human sense expressed? The first, at least, of these I thought denied to beast, whom God on their creation day created mute to all the articulate sound, The latter I demur, for in their looks much reason, and in their actions oft appears the serpent, subtlest beast of all the field. I knew, but not with human voice endured. Redouble then this miracle, and say, how canst thou speak? Eh, how canst thou speakable of mute? And how to me so friendly grown above the rest of brutal kind that daily are in sight? Stay, for such wonder claims attention due. To whom the guileful tempter thus replied: Empress of this fair world, resplendent Eve, easy to me it is to tell thee all what thou commandest, and right thou shouldest be obeyed. I was at first as other beasts that graze the trodden herb, of abject thoughts and low, as was my food, not out but food discerned or sex, and apprehended nothing high, till on this day, roving the field, I chanced a goodly tree far distant to behold, laden with fruit of fairest colours mixed, ruddy and gold. I nearer drew to gaze, when from the boughness a savoury odour blown, grateful to appetite, more pleased my senses than smell of sweetest fennel, or the teats of ewe or goat dropping with milk of even unsucked of lamb or kid, that tend their play to satisfy the sharp desires I had of tasting those fair apples. I resolved not to defer, hunger and thirst at once, powerful persuaders, quickened at the scent of that alluring fruit, urged me so keen. About the mossy trunk I wound me soon, for high from the ground the branches would require thy utmost reach or Adam's. Round the tree all other beasts that saw, with like desire longing and envying stood, but could not reach. Amid the tree now got, where plenty hung, tempting so high, to pluck and eat my fill, I spared not. For such pleasure till that hour at feed or fountain never had I found. Sated at length, ere long I might perceive strange alteration in me, to degree of reason in my inward powers, and speech wanted not long, though to this shape retained. Thenceforth to speculations high or deep I turned my thoughts, and with capacious mind considered all things visible in heaven, or earth, or middle, all things fair and good. But all that fair and good is in thy divine semblance, and in thy beauty's heavenly ray united I beheld. No fire to thine equivalent or second, which compelled me thus, though importune perhaps, to come and gaze, and worship thee of right declared sovereign of creatures, universal dame. So talked the spirit sly snake, and Eve, yet more amazed, unwary, thus replied: Serpent, thy overpraising leaves me in doubt the virtue of that fruit. If thee first proved, but say where grows the tree, from hence how far? For many are the trees of God that grow in paradise, and various yet unknown to us. In such semblance lies our choice, as leaves a greater store of fruit untouched, still hanging incorruptible, till men grow to their provision, and more hands help to disturb nature or her birth, to whom the wily adder, blithe and glad empress, to whom the wily adder, blithe and glad empress, the way is ready, and not long, beyond a row of myrtles, on a flat, fast by a fountain, one small thicket past, of blowing myrrh and balm. If thou accept my conduct, I can bring thee thither soon. Lead then, said Eve, he leading swiftly round entangles, and make intricate seem straight, to mischief swift. Hope elevates, and joy brightens his crest, and when a wandering fire, compact of unctuous vapour, which the night condenses, and cold environs round, kindly though agitation to a flame, which oft, they say, some evil spirit attends, hovering and blazing with diffusive light, misleads the amazed night wanderer away from his to bogs and mires, and oft through pond or pool, there swallowed up and lost from succour far. So glistered the dire snake, and into fraud led Eve, our credulous mother, to the tree of prohibition, root of all our woe. Which, when she saw, thus to her guide she spake: Serpent, we might have spared our coming hither, fruitless to me, though fruit be here in excess, the credit of whose virtue rest with thee. Wondrous indeed, if cause of such effects. But of this tree we may not taste nor touch. God so commanded, and left the command sole daughter of his voice. The rest we live law to ourselves. Reason is our law. To whom the tempter guilefully replied, Indeed, hath God then said that of the fruit of all these garden trees ye shall not eat? Yet laws declared of all in earth and air, to whom thus Eve, yet sinless, of the fruit of each tree in the garden we may eat, but of the fruit of this fair tree amidst the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat, therefore, nor shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And there is where we will pause. We all know what's going to happen next, but still, we're going to pause there because halfway through the chapter, and we should go and raid Stolen Fires. So yes, Lost in Paradise. Paradise Lost. So I hope you enjoyed that. We shall be back next week. I shall remember. And we shall finish off book 7 of Paradise Lost, a poem in 10 parts. Things coming up next Wednesday. Join me over on Stolen Fires Twitch, where I am running some Tales from the Loop. 1980s fun in Great Yarmouth. Not really a phrase I ever thought I would say, fun in Great Yarmouth. It's going to be entertaining because it's for Americans who get to experience what 1980s England was like. I grew up around the area. I grew up in Suffolk, and I learned to swim in Great Yarmouth, so it could be quite good fun to experience this. I know where it starts. They're going to start camping around a lake, and I learned to sail in that lake in the 90s. Yes, in the 90s, in the mid-90s. I learned to sail. Yes, I used to sail. Don't anymore. I learned to sail bathtubs, oppies, as they were called. Anyway, enough of that. So join me over on Stolen Fires on Wednesday. Not this Wednesday, next Wednesday. That'll be March 5th, 6th, something like that. Where we shall see what the kiddies are up to. Also, just go check out Stolen Fires anyway. Always awesome RPG content. So go check them out. But yeah, that's it for me. I shall upload this to YouTube now, whilst I go and watch other games. So thank you very much for watching. And all that is left for me to say is goodbye, my friends.